Greetings, my people of Africa. It's my pleasure to talk to you this day, thanking you for the African Day and also for the International Association of Youths and Students of Peace in Africa, who organized the African Day Youth Virtual Conference. During the conference today, I did ask a question about the ongoing genocide going on in Southern Cameroons, or called the Anglophone Cameroons, or now called today Ambazonia. Before I get to that light, I will want to still ask that question and throw more light into it, because during the presentation there was some technical hitches that the topic was not well covered. First, I'll be discussing about resolutions that led to this problem, and also the causes of the Southern Cameroon crisis, some history, and how you can help. First, my question to the panelists of the African Day Youth Virtual Conference that took place today, the 25th of May, 2020. I did ask the question to the panelists. After the Rwanda genocide, that's my question. After the Rwanda genocide, the war said, never again. This same war has sat silent to the ongoing genocide in the former British Southern Cameroons, now called today Ambazonia. So, what is the African Day? Everyone celebrating the African Day today. What is your message to the over 45,000 refugees that have fled to Nigeria because of this crisis? Over 2 million internally displaced people, the IDPs, and over 5,000 incarcerated in prisons around Cameroon. Moreover, about 10,000 people have died so far, shot by the Cameroon military, especially in the Ngarbuh Massacre, where over 34 children, pregnant women, killed in live ammunition in close range for defending the UN Resolution 1514 and UN Resolution 1608, Article 2B. Now, during the Rwanda genocide, where the Hutu ethnic majorities in the Eastern Central Africa nation of Rwanda murdered as many as 800,000 people of the Tutsi minority. When I talk about the genocide in Southern Cameroons, it's also a majority and a minority problem. The dominant French Cameroon, called the Republic of Cameroon, is now killing the Southern Cameroonians, two countries of equal status that came into union following United Nations Resolution 1608, Article 2B, and also under United Nations Resolution 1514. The United Nations Resolution 1514, which talks about the declaration and granting of independence to colonial countries and people. If you live in a free country today, like in Nigeria or South Africa, in Ethiopia, in Egypt, wherever you are in Africa, you are enjoying independence because of this Resolution 1514. Type it, United Nations Resolution 1514 on Google, you have this document. The Article 2B reads, all people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development. United Nations Resolution 1514, Article 4, it says, all armed actions or repressive measures of all kinds directed against independent people shall cease in order to enable them to exercise peacefully and freely their rights to complete independence and the integrity of their national territory shall be respected. I'm quoting United Nations resolutions, which is what has led to this genocide in the English-speaking Cameroon, or Southern Cameroons today known as Ambazonia. I also refer you to the United Nations Resolution 1608, Article 4B, which says, the people of Southern Cameroon have similarly decided to achieve independence by joining the Independence Republic of Cameroon. Africa Day Youths, did you hear what I just read? A country in Africa decided to achieve independence by joining another independent country, Republic of Cameroon. That is the cause of the genocide going on in Southern Cameroon. That is why 10,000 people have died, because the United Nations have refused to go back to this document. This question to the African Day is that the rest of Africa cannot be celebrating happily for African Day. Meanwhile, there are refugees and internally displaced people in Africa. Like I said earlier, if one part of the body is hurt, the rest of the body is not feeling well. If you have headache, your whole body cannot be well. You can't go to work. So if one part of Africa is having such a problem and the rest of Africa cannot raise up their voices to talk about this problem, we will not have a solution of the Africa that we all visualize or think that we want to build. So I'm calling on everybody in Africa to say that. Please join your voices. The appetite in South Africa got finished when a lot of countries around the world started to talk about the problem. And many lives were saved. A lot of people want to ask a lot of questions about the Southern Cameroon struggle, or the Ambazonian struggle, or the Cameroon Anglophone crisis. People might want to say, but why is this fighting? Why are the people picking arms? Why are the boys trying to defend themselves? I'll give a brief history of what happened. Teachers complained to the government and talked about French teachers being sent to their English schools. You have to first of all understand that the French Cameroon is a majority, about 80% of the population of Cameroon. And the English Cameroon is about 20%. But these 20% of English Cameroonians make about 8 million people. 8 million people of Southern Cameroons is more than 17 countries in the world in terms of population. I repeat, these 8 million Southern Cameroonians scattered around the world is larger than more than 18 or 17 other countries around the world that the United Nations have granted them independence. So what happened? The history of Southern Cameroons date back to the 1814, in the times of the Germans, and right up to the colonization of Africa by the French and the British. The Southern Cameroons by 1954, he had his own elected Prime Minister, John Foncha. He has a House of Assembly, a parliament. It was a country on its own. What happened? 64 member countries of the United Nations did signed and voted for the independence of Southern Cameroons, including the United States, Japan, Australia, Canada, Nigeria, Sweden, Austria, and many more. So when we see the people of French Cameroon are illegally annexing and marginalizing and colonizing the people of Southern Cameroons, it's a topic that the world needs to start to talk about. And when you try to talk about, there is repression. There was shutdown of internet in the English region or Southern Cameroons for a long period of time to hide the social media from talking about these atrocities. We must know that French Cameroon had its own independence before the independence of Southern Cameroons was mentioned at the United Nations. On 1st January 1960, the government of Cameroon, of the Republic of Cameroon, filed their document to the United Nations and were granted independence. 1st January 1960. At that time, the people of Southern Cameroon were not independent. Their file has not been discussed at the United Nations. Almost a year later, by October 1st, 1961, that was when the Resolution 1608, Article 2B came up, getting an independent country to join another independent country, which brings a tautology why youths and young people of Africa like me are speaking back. Which document do you have to prove that the Southern Cameroon region belongs to the French Cameroon? If you have that document, can you present it to the world? Can you present it to the United Nations? Where's the treaty? It's just like you get married to somebody and you don't have a marriage certificate. How can you prove that that's your legal spouse? These are the arguments that continue to come up with the people of Southern Cameroons. And another thing we must know is that the people of the French Cameroon decided to go on a plebiscite, which gave the two countries to come together in a unitary state in 1972. During that plebiscite, there was fraud of a we and a yes ballot paper. If you're in Africa, if you speak, your country is French, you know what we means. If you're speaking in English, you know what yes mean. If the ballot paper have only we and yes, and there's no none or no, people who don't understand French thinks that we is no. They circle the we and balloted and casted their ballots to let Cameroon to join in a unitary state with 2 stars. But what happened? This country of Cameroon, it changed the 2 stars into 1 and changed the name again back to the Federal Republic of Cameroon, engulfing the people of Southern Cameroons. That's why there is a genocide and people are fighting. I will continue to call on the world to do everything that they can do in their own capacity, and Africa as a whole, to start looking at solutions in Africa, how we can solve these problems. And I want to give my own suggestions to anyone of Africa who is trying to look into the case of this genocide in Southern Cameroons. How can you help? 1, you can join the global awareness about stopping the genocide in Cameroon on your Facebook profile. Make a video and talk about the current crisis. 2, you can talk about the brutality of the police and the arbitrary arrests. 3, you can talk about a ceasefire. The people of Southern Cameroons are ready for a ceasefire at the Swiss-led talks. The Switzerland government has said, okay, French Cameroon, English Cameroon, come to the table and let's talk. The English Cameroon is ready to talk. The French is not. They're running away from the talks. So call on the government of Cameroon and say military solutions will not solve this problem. We need you to go to the Swiss talk. We need you to be on the table so we can put lasting solutions to this crisis. You can also do a reflection on the United Nations website about Resolution 1608 Article 2B and also Resolution 1514 that granting countries of Africa of the world independence. How that process was done, if you want to understand detail, if you want to talk about this crisis. If you live in other countries, you can talk to your government in your country. It could be your parliament, it could be your Congress members to discuss about this crisis. If you run an organization, that's point number 6. If you run an organization, please let your organization include human rights violations and look at this situation in Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. You can contact newspapers and publish articles about what you know, what you've learned, what you've read about this crisis in Cameroon. You can engage the African Union, the ECOWAS, and any other organizations, especially the International Association for Youths and Students of Peace, which are the future of Africa, to be able to look at these situations and see how it can help. You can ask presidents of countries to put your voices. And also, lastly, I'll ask you to pray for Cameroon. Pray for the people of Southern Cameroons that are suffering in the bushes, that are suffering in the refugee camps in Nigeria, and the prisoners that are incarcerated for more than 4 years now with no trial. Please, your voices can change. The social media was created in our generation as a piece of tool we can use to express ourselves. Like we heard a young 7-year-old or less lady made a poem about Africa today. Please, join your voices. The social media is a way for you to tell the world about what's going on. If you have any questions or more about this, please feel free to contact me. I'll leave my contact below, or the organization. I'll be able to be back again to talk about this topic. Again, my name is Hon.Daniel calling all the way from New York. Thank you very much.